Hey everyone, it's time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is your look at the astrology of October 3rd through 9th, 2022. I'm still making a face because I'm like, how is it October? It just seems, maybe we're doing this all the time. Like, how is everything just flying by? But if you're watching live, do say hello. It's always lovely to check in. And I know a lot of you are familiar faces, some of you are even my clients. And where are you watching from? Because I have Sag rising. I like to sort of explore vicariously through everybody. So we got a lot going on in October. We got a lot going on this week. You heard me say in September, it's like September was a little bit of a lull. Maybe it wasn't a lull for you, but energetically, astrologically, it was a lull. It was a time to get organized and prepared, because now that we're in October, we are coming up to eclipse season. So our first eclipse is not until October 25th, a few weeks from now. Actually, a few weeks from now. But now that we are a few weeks away from a solar eclipse, it's not uncommon to start to feel eclipse energy. Life just gets a little bit more of a charge. Life feels like it's on the edge of a pivot, or something's coming in, something's going out. And eclipses are just a natural part of our astrology, and we encounter eclipses every 6 months. So without eclipses, our life wouldn't change and grow and evolve. So we sort of need that eclipse energy to push things along. It kind of creates a sense of momentum in our lives. But sometimes these eclipses do talk about major personal pivots in your life. I know, it just is here. Must be an Aries full moon later this week, because I don't know if you can hear the sirens that are going on in the background, the perks of urban living. So yeah, we've got a lot going on. We've got a lot to cover. I need to make an apology to Libra. I'm so sorry that I forgot to say Libra. We'll give you the horoscope last week. I completely blanked, and in my defense, it was Mercury retrograde, or maybe I don't have a defense, and I'll just have to make it up to Libra. But yeah, it's Libra season. I know that it's your birthday. Happy birthday. And I hope that you're enjoying that now your planet, Venus, is back home in its sign. So enjoy. And maybe even this past weekend, Venus opposite Jupiter, is to be in the pleasure of life, the pleasure of connection, and to sort of enjoy the niceties of life. But yeah, it's October. Let me just quickly reintroduce myself. My name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm an astrologer and psychic medium here in the New York City area. I'm actually just outside Manhattan and New Jersey. I was in Brooklyn for 16 years, long time. But every week we gather live to look at the astrology. Something that you hear me say over and over again is that the astrology is 50%. You are the other 50%. It's just energy, and that energy interfaces with you. Of course, there's a structure to the astrology. There's a structure to time, just like there's a structure to the seasons. There's a structure to the fact that it's really cold and rainy here in the northeast of the United States. And this is the remnants of Hurricane Ian. And I know that I have some clients in the Fort Myers area, and so I am thinking of you all and wishing you well, because I was like, wait a second, I know people down there. So I do hope you're well, and if you are well, please let me know. But yeah, we gather every week, and I want you all to look at the astrology not as this what's going to happen to me, but how is the energy unfolding? What is it asking of you? How can you work with the energy? How do you grow and evolve through the astrology? Sort of the analogy that I give for my clients is like your chart, your astrology chart, this moment that you're born, it tells me in a way the shape of your life and how time unfolds, but it doesn't tell me about you. And we could have had the conversation, we could have had the check-in astrologically 10 years ago. Same chart, different you. Even though we're talking about astrology for this week, it's you grow and evolve through this astrology. So that's just me on my soapbox for a moment. But yeah, what's going on? Well, first, let's just sort of recap October. October brings us into eclipse season. And eclipses, as you know, you heard me say a few moments ago, they punctuate our lives. They sort of say that it's time for a new beginning. It's time to and one chapter, and it's time to go off in a different direction. These eclipses, they thread back to April and May. We had a solar eclipse on April 30th, a lunar eclipse on May 16th. Those eclipses threaded back to November 19th with a lunar eclipse in Taurus on November 19th of 2021. And they're all part of a series and a story. And that story takes us into 2023. But there's something about these eclipses. We're sort of in the middle of the story. We're at the high point of the story. These eclipses play off of the energies of Saturn and Uranus. These were two energies that were very prevalent in the astrology of 2021 and sort of reforged, remade, reshaped, pushed us, one foot in one life, one foot and another life. And we're coming up to that energy again, even though these are not exact Saturn-Uranus squares. They're pretty close. They're 1 degree of orb. Another thing, first I should say I'm going to have a webinar on the eclipses of October and November of 2022. And this webinar will be probably about 2 hours, if I'm being completely honest. I think I tried to do it in an hour and a half, but it never happens because I have so much to share. Like, what is it about eclipses? Why are they important? Where do these eclipses connect to the other eclipses? What is the overarching story? How do these eclipses connect to some things that began or were seeded back in 2018, 2019, May 2018, March 2019? You hear me often go back to those dates. And more importantly, what do these eclipses mean for you? Where's the pivot point? Where's the story? What's maybe in some cases, if you're a fixed sign, my fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. This is where all that energy is concentrated on, or that part of your chart, if you know your astrology. So yeah, that webinar is going to be Saturday, October 22nd at 12 p.m. Eastern. I believe that's 9 a.m. Pacific. You can get the replay. I know a lot of you do sign up for the replay because we live in different time zones. It's okay. Some of you are in Australia, some of you are in Europe, some of you are even in Hawaii. But yeah, we've got eclipses. We have Saturn turning direct on October 23rd, just 2 days before a solar eclipse. Saturn is pivoting in a square to Uranus. It's going to be really interesting. But sooner than that, actually, Mars also turns retrograde this month. It turns retrograde on October 31st. But this week, we have Pluto direct. Pluto finally turns direct. It has about a 6-month retrograde. It's been retrograde, I believe, since April, May. It used to be April, but now things are starting to move. But yeah, Pluto turns direct. Mercury is now directed to turn direct yesterday. And we also have an Aries full moon this week. So that's a lot. Pluto is a lot. Aries full moon is a lot. And so a full moon in general puts things into a spotlight. It sort of forces an issue. It demands attention, demands action. And certainly Aries is a sign of action. And which way are we going? What are we choosing? I say choosing because Mars, the ruler of full moon, is in Gemini. We have to weigh our options. We have to stand up for our convictions. We have to sort of commit to what we believe in. What else is going on? This Aries full moon activates the energies of Chiron. And this is a little bit of a subtle addition to the full moon. Aries is typically a very hot sign. It has a lot of physical energy. It sort of demands action, but physical action. But Chiron, it's a very subtle energy. It talks about these pain points that we all have as human beings. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. Nobody wants to hear me. Nobody loves me. All the things that we tell ourselves. But these, almost like these threads and knots that we keep going back to. And so Chiron's pressing on a subtle story this week, and something that, might be an old ache, something that you're very familiar with at this point in your life. If you do have Chiron and Aries, those are my people that are born 1968 to 1977. It's pressing on something that's quite personal, quite familiar. And Chiron Aries is about having the courage and bravery to stand up for ourselves, to go after what we want, to take action. And maybe feeling those pain points around the times where we weren't able to take action. We weren't able to stand up for ourselves. And how do we work through that scar tissue? So there's a personal level with Chiron, there's a collective level with Chiron. And in order to heal, in order to release, sort of loosen the knot, so to speak, we have to take the things that have made us suffer the most and use it like medicine to help other people, to inspire them. The more that you inspire people this week by doing something brave or courageous or taking action, the more that loosens the knot, the more that softens the scar tissue. We also have Pluto direct this week, and this is sort of a larger story. Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008. I know that's not a point that's lost on a lot of you all, but for some of you that don't know, these sort of bigger points in astrology, that's a long time. Pluto, the last time Pluto was in Capricorn was the 1760s and the 1770s, so a very long time ago. Pluto takes 248, I always forget, years to go around the sun. And so this is the only time in our life that we will have Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto is an evolutionary planet. So it's been concentrating its evolutionary energies on the sign of Capricorn since 2008. And Capricorn is structure, it's power, it's our material and our manifested world. And for many of us, especially if you are a Capricorn or if you are what's called a cardinal sign, my Aries, my Cancer, my blanking on one, Libra. Geez, what's my blind spot with Libra? Your lives quite possibly are very different than they were since 2008. So we're starting to come to the end of a very long story, because with Pluto going direct, this is one of the last few times that Pluto will pivot in the sign of Capricorn. There will be 2 more times that Pluto, it'll go into Aquarius for the first time since 1780s and 90s, just this March 23rd of 2023. That's a big deal. We got a lot to talk about when we get to the astrology of 2023, when I do my webinar for the new year. Yeah, like big headlines. Pluto goes into Aquarius. What does that mean for you? Pluto will be in Aquarius for 20 years. That's crazy. Anyway, so Pluto's going to start to go into Aquarius, but it will go back into Capricorn twice. And then by November of 2024, it's completely into Aquarius. But it's turning direct in Capricorn this week. That part of your chart, when we go through the 12 signs, hopefully you'll understand what I'm talking about, unless I completely blank on Libra again. You will see that part of your life, maybe it looks very different than it did in 2008. Maybe at this point, very familiar story is starting to come up as Pluto turns direct. Whenever a planet turns retrograde or direct, this is what we call in astrology a station. It concentrates the energy. And Pluto, as an evolutionary force, it helps us work on the level of our soul. I don't know what you believe in, but for me, and especially the way that I look at astrology, it's through the prism of the soul and the soul's experience and sort of our evolutionary journey as human beings in this life. So Pluto holds a mirror to us, and Pluto says, oh, you don't think you're this type of person? Well, I'm going to show you exactly who you are. Maybe that sounds confrontational, but we're talking about Pluto here. So one of the examples I give with Pluto is, let's say you have a tendency to attract people with anger problems in your life. Why? What is that showing you inside yourself about anger? Or problems with bosses, problems with authority? What is that showing you about your relationship with power and authority? So Pluto holds the mirror to us, and it helps us to see things about ourselves, our unconscious, our psyche, and even our soul's experience that we don't typically have a chance to see and access. Oh, that can't be me. I can't be that person. It's all this person. What is Pluto trying to show you this week? And Pluto can show up like an avatar. And I've had a lot of conversations with clients where I say, well, yes, I realize you're having a problem with your boss, but who is your boss? Maybe they look at me like I'm crazy. No, but I mean, who is your boss an avatar of? Is it dad? Is it mom? Is it somebody else? Because especially if you're going through a Pluto transit, really to look to see where Pluto as an avatar, as a person, as an embodiment of the astrology is showing up in your life. Same thing, kind of going off on a tangent for a moment, same thing for Uranus. Uranus, it's an energy, but there's somebody in your life, or probably a series of people in your life while Uranus has been in Taurus, who are embodying the energy for you to sort of help you connect with it, help you wake up. But in the case of Pluto, to help you see yourself. And sometimes that's not easy. Sometimes it's very confrontational. Sometimes it's messy. I'm saying this as a Scorpio, it's necessary because that's how we grow and evolve. That's how we open up our consciousness. That's how we turn shadow into light, and we do the spiritual alchemy. So we're doing our spiritual alchemy this week, and there may be an intense energy that we're working through, or an emotion or something from the past. Full moon plus Chiron, but it's an Aries full moon. And so this week we have to take action about something. We have to examine our choices. Mars is in Gemini. We have to weigh our options. We have to think about what we're taking action. Mars is kind of coming up to a slow square to Neptune as it comes up to its retrograde. And so it's not so straightforward. We have to really think about, sacrifice is not the right word. It's how, we align our actions, our choices, our drive and motivation with something larger than ourselves. It could be our higher self. It could be spirituality. It could be the divine. But this is part of this larger framework that we're going to be working with when Mars goes retrograde on the 31st of October until the 12th of January 2023. So it's a powerful week. Really pay attention to themes around power, transformation, rebirth, control, intimacy, vulnerability, the shadow, alchemy, transformation, check, pain points, psychic and emotional pain points, and healing. And how do we do our spirit healing work? So yeah, that's, tall order. I believe in you all. It's possible. So yeah, that's like the larger framework of astrology of this week, for October 3rd through 9th, 2022. We do have Mercury. Mercury did turn direct in Virgo, turned direct my North Node. It turned direct at 24 degrees of Virgo, and I think by probably the next couple of weeks it's going to be back into Libra. Before it does that, it's been making a little bit of a out of orb opposition, or maybe not out of orb, but it's not exact, to Neptune, but also it's making a trine to Pluto this week. Mercury trine Pluto, it will be exact on October 6th. Typically, Mercury is about the mind, analysis, our ability to perceive information, to sort information, to communicate. You throw a Pluto aspect in that, and it becomes obsessive. Pluto-Mercury people, they typically have very sharp minds, sometimes very sharp words. They have an ability to get to the bottom of things. So maybe this is a week where we are really working with the voice, the power of the voice, the power of choice, especially with the Mars in Gemini, and really seeing things for what they are. If you've been making choices, for example, without really thinking about it, or not being really consciously present with your choices, how does Pluto show you what you're really working with, show you what your true options are, show you your blind spots? Mercury trine Pluto gives you an ability to see through things, to see through the veneer. Maybe that's kind of giving us a different way of working with that Mercury. Very imaginative Mercury-Neptune opposition. But by this week, we've got Sun opposite Chiron on October 7th. Then we have Pluto going direct at 26 degrees of Capricorn on October 8th. And then we round out the week with an Aries full moon on October 9th. And that Aries full moon is going to be at 16 degrees of Aries. When we reach that Aries full moon, we are officially 2 weeks away from a solar eclipse in Scorpio. Life's going to start to get interesting. I'm saying this as a Scorpio. It's an archetype and a sign that we are all going to collectively live and work through over the next 6 months, from October 25th until the Aries solar eclipse on April 20th of 2023. So that's your look at the week. Let's see what this means for each of the 12 signs. Of course, listen for your sun sign, listen for your rising sign, listen for both. synthesize the overlapping points, see a richer picture of yourself. People ask me, can I listen to your moon sign, my moon sign? Of course. If you get good information from your moon sign, by all means. But we have to understand, what are we seeing the astrology, what perspective are we seeing the astrology from? The moon governs emotions. So if you listen for your moon sign, it's through the emotional prism, the subconscious prism, and maybe even the unconscious prism of your life. If you're listening for your sun, it's about the self and sort of the self's experience and the ego's experience. If you're listening for your rising sign, it really helps you to connect to the larger picture and framework of your life. But if you know I'm getting really technical here for a moment. If you know the ruler of your midheaven, it could be Venus, it could be Mercury, and where is that planet right now? What sign is that planet in? Or where was it when you were born? You can reverse engineer the story for your career, midheaven, but don't want to make things too complicated. But anyway, that's how you can do a lot of fancy moves in astrology. So let's look at the astrology of October 3rd through 9th, 2022 for the sign of Aries. Aries, you have a full moon in your sign, so you're in the spotlight this week. Life gets loud, and that means different things for different people. It's not a quiet week. But with with Mars, your planet continues to be in Gemini, and it's going to be in Gemini until March of 2023. That's a long time. It's so much about the mental mind, the mental process, ideas, information, learning, movement, writing, communication, education. Maybe this sounds familiar, Aries, but it's a lot of energy that's being concentrated. So maybe this is a week where you're in the spotlight. You have to take action. You have to move. You have to be a leader, but you have to also say something, do something, communicate something, or maybe even make a choice. Mars is making a trine to Saturn, so hopefully it is a really grounded and mature choice. But Pluto is turning direct in your career sign. So Aries, I want you to go back and think to 2008. And what does your professional life, not just your professional life and your career, but your duties and responsibilities on a worldly level, your reputation, your sense of direction in the world, how does that look? Does it look very different? How has your experience with with power evolved over the last 14 years? Have you had experiences where there's been an authority figure that you have had a very difficult or maybe even toxic relationship with? How have you had to stand up for yourself? So Pluto, when it goes into a sign, it does what I call the gut renovation. It rips everything out. But by this point, 2022, Pluto is in that sort of last home stretch of Capricorn. Your professional life, your ambitions, your place in the world, your ambitions, I said already, it has to look very differently. And hopefully it does. But as you get to the end of Pluto and Capricorn 2023, 2024, this is the point where you look back and hopefully see what all the demo, construction, reconstruction has been building for you in your professional life over the last 14 years. Taurus. So here we go. We got an Aries full moon. Aries is what's called your 12th sign. So this is the full moon that highlights endings, release, letting go. Maybe that's something you're like, oh, why endings, release? Well, we all have to have these moments where we can't hold on to anything, or we can't hold on to things anymore. And as a Taurus, typically you hold on to things. And this is all in advance of a lunar eclipse in your sign on November 8th and a solar eclipse in your relationship sign on October 25th. And so as you start to prepare for a big 6 months, what do you need to let go of? What do you need to prepare? Do you need to rest? Mars is in Gemini, and Gemini is your second sign. So there's something about value, money, income, how you earn a living, maybe even what you value on a general level. And how do you align your material values with your spiritual values? And to have a full moon in your 12th is also very existential and spiritual place for there to be full moon. And so maybe you're thinking deep thoughts. right now, Taurus. But Pluto, and speaking of deep thoughts, Pluto is turning direct in what's called your ninth sign. And your ninth sign governs how you see the world, how you see yourself in the world, your sense of truth, faith, convictions, what you stand for, sense of right and wrong, for example. And maybe when you go back since 2008, what you believe in is very different. How you see the world, how you see yourself in the world is very different. And at this point, as you start to get to the end of this transit, as you go into next year, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. And maybe this is a premature question, but what do you believe in? And maybe what you believed in a while back is not what you believe in now. There's been a loss of faith, a gain of faith, a shift in perspective, a shift in what you believe in. So this full moon, especially with the Pluto, I mean, it's not exact, but it's kind of a wide square. You know, it's really hitting on these deeper existential questions, Taurus, but this also prepares you for eclipse season and a lot of the real world shifts and changes that very likely will start to take place. Gemini. Aries is your 11th sign of friends and community, your social connection, groups, for example, in this sort of larger framework of belonging and maybe even social themes, social issues, and social causes. Mars is in your sign, Gemini. It's going to be in Gemini all the way until March of 2023. So that's a lot of energy that's in your sign right now. And maybe you're feeling a little hot-headed. Maybe you feel very impulsive. Maybe you know exactly which way you're going. Mars is giving you power, drive, and motivation. So this full moon is both talking about your friends, your community, and needing to make some decisions, what direction you're headed in, maybe your relationship with your community, a sense of belonging, being a leader in your community, taking action, but also the future. What future do you see for yourself, Gemini? You know, especially kind of like what Taurus is experiencing this week. For you, you've been experiencing on a larger level the past couple of years, these big, deeper, existential, spiritual, maybe even mystical questions that have been coming up for you. Excuse me. So Pluto turning direct, voice, communication, Gemini. So Pluto turning direct in your 8th sign speaks to a larger time frame that goes back 14 years at this point, 2008, where you've been doing a lot of deep emotional and psychic excavation. It has not always been easy to be a Gemini over the last 14 years, but at this point, you've had to go into the deepest parts of yourself. You are continuing to go into the deepest parts of yourself and sort of the excavation of the deepest self in preparation of Pluto's arrival in your 9th sign in 2023 and 2024. The 9th sign is the sign, even though this is a 20-year chapter. I know, crazy. But that 20-year chapter is about faith, truth, meaning. I always say to people, how do you get wisdom and knowledge? The 9th is famous for. You have to go through the 8th. So this has been a deep dive to help you better understand yourself and ultimately better understand the world, Gemini. Cancer. So Libra season for you is a time that focuses on your career. No, that's not right. Yeah, Cancer focuses on home and family. I had to think about that for a second. I swear astrology is sometimes dancing backwards. Cancer. This Libra season for you is about home and family and really focusing on your roots and your foundation. And then to have an Aries full moon, that puts a spotlight on your professional life. So as ambitious as you may be, Cancer, maybe you are, maybe you're not, but as ambitious as you are, it needs to have a base, it needs to have a foundation. So this is for you to see that push and pull between your inner world, your external world, your inner desires and your inner world, your home responsibilities and the responsibilities of your career, responsibilities out in the world. On a more mundane level, Cancer, this may be a full moon that puts your spotlight on your career. Maybe you're getting recognized for something. Maybe you have to make a decision about your professional life. Maybe you're making a career change, for example. Cancer, Gemini is what's called your 12th sign. So there's a link between this full moon and Mars in your 12th. So there may be a little bit of a bittersweetness to this full moon. It's something that's coming in, but at the same time, something is leaving. Or maybe it's about trying to find the balance between your worldly ambitions, but also what is deep in your heart, in your soul. A lot of times we have to earn a living and make money, and that's sort of the first thing that we take into account. But sometimes we really have to think about, well, is this how I want to earn a living? Is this what I really want to do? Does it align with my deeper spiritual values? Cancer, the other area that's really highlighted this week is Pluto in Capricorn in your 7th. And go back to 2008 and look at the thread about relationships. Every Cancer is going to live this differently. I've had Cancers who have been married for 30 years, still married, and there's been some sort of deeper transformation work around relationships. I've had Cancers that, Pluto went into Capricorn in 2008 and they got divorced. I've had some Cancers who weren't in relationships, but who now are, because people are coming in and it represents a lot of the result of a lot of the deeper work. So for you, Cancer, see what this means for you. How has your relationship with relationships transformed over the last 14 years? Who has been Pluto in your life? Who has sort of forced you to stand up for yourself, forced you to learn how to negotiate and interact with people, to connect with people? Like I said, it means different things to different Cancers. But it's a powerful time, and it's starting to wrap up. You've done a lot of deep psychic excavation. And if you are born in the later days of Cancer season, like, you're really getting it right now. Whereas if you're born right after the summer solstice or right after the solstice in the beginning of the sign, you had this back in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011. But for my later born Cancers you're experiencing now, it's a bit intense. This is the only time you're going to have Pluto opposite your sun in your lifetime. So really do the proactive work, transform yourself, transform your relationships, transform intimacy, but don't forget who you are. Leo, here we are. We're creeping up on eclipse season, Leo. Kind of getting ahead of myself, but on October 25th, there's going to be a solar eclipse in your sign of home and family. And it says that maybe over the next 6 months, there's a change in the household, a change in your living situation, or even a need to create new beginnings in your home environment. That said, we're not there yet, but maybe you're feeling it. Maybe life is starting to percolate, and maybe you're feeling these sort of deeper emotions come up about home and family. I'd say, Leo, go back and look at 2013, 2014, 2003, 2004. That's when you last had eclipses in this area. Then we have the Aries full moon. That Aries full moon is making something called, it's putting the spotlight on, putting a spotlight on your 9th sign of wisdom, knowledge, the sign that helps you to see the world, to travel and explore, to go on a quest, but also figure out what you believe in, figure out what you stand for, and to figure out your place in the world, even higher education. So you may have to make a decision about something, or in true Aries fashion, really stand up for yourself, stand up for what you believe in, stand up for your convictions. Mars, which is in Gemini, is over in your 11th sign. So there's something about wisdom and knowledge, but intellect, ideas, ideology, social issues, social causes, your sort of beliefs about the world. This means different things to different Leos, of course. The full moon may also talk about really sharing your wisdom and knowledge with the world, teaching something, broadcasting something, publishing something, getting your ideas and information out there, being able to really stand behind your ideas and information. Then we have Pluto turning direct in your 6th sign. And the 6th sign is both the sign of health and wellness, but it's also a very operational space in the chart. It's sort of where we sit in the command seat and really take care of business and life, the details of life. And so on one hand, maybe you go back and look at 2008 and your relationship with your body, and maybe your relationship with your body has changed dramatically over the last 14 years. means different things to different people. Maybe you had zero relationship with your body back in 2008, and now it's like you really work to cultivate a relationship, to work on it, to make it healthy, to do physical exercise, to make changes in your diet, whatever your body needs. That's the most important thing. But maybe this is about really sitting in the command seat and really taking care of the details, getting your life organized, projects, work on a sort of day-to-day level. And so Pluto is saying, and even service, so there's something that's shifting, excuse me, so there's something that's shifting about your relationship with this part of your life. And as Pluto wraps up this time, you're going to have to start to connect the dots and to see, who you were in 2008 versus who you are now, and how the physicality of your life and sort of the operational structure of your life and even your health and wellness has changed dramatically since 2008. Virgo, I promise I won't forget Libra. Virgo, we got an Aries full moon. This Aries full moon is in your 8th sign. So anytime the astrology highlights the 8th sign, it's a time when you really have to face yourself. You have to do the deep inner work searching. When I try to talk about the 8th sign, or the 8th room, as I call it in astrology, in a way I'm talking about Scorpio. Scorpio is a necessary sign in the zodiac. It stands opposite Taurus. Taurus is that bloom, it's the rebirth of life after winter, but Taurus is the decay. Taurus is a sign that, not Taurus, Scorpio. Scorpio is decay. Scorpio is a sign that reminds us that life is not finite. And so when you go into your own 8th, you're sort of connecting with these Scorpio energies. That's reminding you that everything has a life cycle. It doesn't have to be death, air quotes, death. I'm a Scorpio. I like to use the D word. I'm sorry, Virgo. It could also be a time when, metaphorically speaking, what has to die? What has to transform? What has to let go? What are the complicated and sometimes messy emotions that come up around this time of year? Also a time to focus on intimacy, vulnerability, trust, security, power, control, letting people in. With Aries as your 8th sign, you're very secretly security conscious, and this is why I say Virgo is a secret Scorpio, because they want to be the boss of the details. But when you go through the 8th, maybe that's a reminder that you can't always be the boss of things. That said, Mars, the ruler of the full moon, is in your 10th, your career. So there's something about power and control about your professional life, needing to be a leader, but also maybe facing parts of yourself that you don't typically want to face. Pluto is turning direct and wrapping up its time in your 5th sign. And your 5th sign is the part of your astrology that talks about how you express who you really are. Identity and self, these are, for most people, very abstract concepts. When I say, do you know who you are? People say, yeah, I know who I am. And, but who you are is not the name on your ID or your papers or your passport or your driver's license. Who you are is something deep inside of you. And your sense of self and your sense of identity has to be felt. It cannot be a mental concept. And so Pluto has been doing a deep excavation around identity, excising the things that are not really who you are, transforming your sense of self, getting you in a deeper touch with your passions, that sense of things that give you life and self-expression, because the 5th is the space of passion and created to creativity. And so this is a time where you've had to really get in touch with that spark that lives inside of you, and that's who you truly are. A little bit of an esoteric point, but Pluto's been doing the deep transformation work, Virgo. Your planet Mercury is direct. It's direct in your sign. It's doing a little bit of a pivot point in aspect to Pluto, but also in aspect to Neptune. I don't know why it's hard. And as it makes an opposition to Neptune, it's needing to sort of do a little deep diving, searching your soul, existential things around, duty and sacrifice and helping other people and balance and boundaries, and how do you figure out who you are, but at the same time navigating other people. Libra, look, I didn't forget you this week, Libra. I'm so sorry. It's like I was going through the timestamps and I'm like, wait, where's Libra? But mea culpa, I completely blanked. So Libra, happy birthday, especially if your birthday is this week. To have an Aries full moon puts the spotlight in relationships. It's a dynamic energy that always happens around your birthday season. It could either be early in your birthday season or late in your birthday season. So this is a time to connect with people, to interact. Mars is in Gemini, and Gemini is in your ninth sign. So maybe you're interacting with people while traveling, people from other countries, different points of views. There's a little bit of an opinionated energy with Mars in your ninth sign, and maybe you are the one with opinions, or maybe you're debating points of view with other people in your life. That said, Venus is now in your sign, so it's a little bit of more of a luxurious place for your planet to be after being in Virgo for 4 weeks. Venus has been bouncing off of Jupiter. It's sort of, maybe you're feeling very celebratory this week or even last week, once Venus went into Libra. But we do have the energy of Chiron present this week, and Chiron is in your sign of relationships. So maybe this is a little bit of I don't want to say bittersweet, because I don't want to dampen the birthday fun, but there's some sort of deeper feels that are happening around this time, and maybe it's about people and connection and being able to connect to the people that you want to connect to, having the courage and bravery to go after something in relationship, or looking at power dynamics in relationships. Speaking of power, Libra, look to Pluto down in Capricorn. I say down because Capricorn forms the base of your astrology, and this means different things to different Libras. I've had many different conversations with Libra clients, Libra rising clients, and over the last 14 years, since 2008, what has been happening in the realm of home and family? Your home environment could be your actual home, or maybe it's your family. Maybe it's a lot of the deeper stuff that's had to come up, because when Pluto walked into Capricorn in 2008, what I say, it's like Pluto started the demolition work, and for some people, you physically moved because of certain experiences over the last decade plus. At this point, the emotional and psychic foundation of your life is well excavated at this point. This has been a need to excise things that have been in your roots. Maybe it's parents, maybe it's the past, maybe it's memories, maybe it's your emotional core, maybe it's ancestors, so that when Pluto finally leaves this sign in 2023, 2024, you have a very different foundation than you did back in 2008. But it's probably hitting on some deeper emotional pain points this week. I'm so sorry, Libra. I know it's your birthday. It's sort of the bitter with the sweet. But maybe to reframe it is to go into a new year that's standing on a very different foundation than you did last year. Scorpio. So my fellow fixed sign, you're 2-3 weeks away from a solar eclipse at this point. Life's getting interesting. You're going to have a solar eclipse in Scorpio on October 25th. So if you're born on October 25th, plus or minus, depending on what type of orbs you use, that's the technical term. This is especially for those that are born on the 25th. It's going to be a very powerful new year, and one that may look very different than the one before. What does that mean? I'm not sure. It means different things to different people. That's something that time will tell and show you. But life, it's sort of getting in the crunch of things right now, especially as Saturn gets ready to turn direct on October 25th. Mars, your planet's starting to slow down. It's going to turn retrograde on October 31st. I'm getting ahead of myself, but this is just to put things on your radar, Scorpio. This week, an Aries full moon puts health and wellness in your spotlights, and maybe you need to take action, Mars, Aries, around a health matter. Go get a checkup. Go do something proactive, positive. Maybe it's, looking at the mind-body connection. Mars, your planet, is in the 8th, and so maybe it's making a therapy appointment or talking to somebody who you can trust and you can count on, because there's this link between your physical life, your physical day-to-day duties, but also your physical health and wellness, and your emotional life. Mars is going to be in Gemini for 5 more months or so, until March 25th of 2023. So this is a bit of a deep dive for Scorpio, a sign that's already known for being a deep dive, but it's an even deeper dive for Scorpio. So what help and support do you need? Who do you rely on? What are the daily systems and rituals that support your life? How do you take care of your physical body in the midst of a lot of personal and maybe even emotional and psychic shifts? Then we have, and especially with the sun in Libra, this is sort of letting go in preparation of your birthday season. Pluto is turning direct in your 3rd sign, a voice, communication, ideas, information. And this has been 14 years about discovering the power of your voice. It could be literally the words out of your mouth, but the ability to allow whatever's inside of you to inhabit your voice so that your voice has life, has power. Pluto, being like a plumber, wants to excise and remove anything that's in the way. So your work, Scorpio, is to go back and look at what was your, what is your relationship with your voice back in 2008? I'm a Scorpio, so there's been this time where I've been really discovering the power of my voice, but if we were doing this back in 2008, you wouldn't be able to hear me. I'm not saying that because of microphones and Facebook Live. I mean, my ability to say something, to say clearly, confidently, to transmit something was completely different. So that's been my Pluto work. So yeah, Sagittarius. So Sag, you're a fire sign. Aries is a fire sign. So this puts the spotlight on passion, creativity, self-expression, the things that light you up and give you life. This full moon is highlighting a sign where your Jupiter is. And Jupiter has been in Aries since about, May 13th. So this has been a time that's been so much about identity and self-expression. This full moon puts something in the spotlight. This full moon also puts Chiron in the spotlight, and maybe this whole idea around self and self-expression and the things that give you joy, passion in life, even the romance of life. Maybe there's some pain points, some deeper pain points, and maybe it's even the pain points about being yourself and having the confidence to be who you are. And how do you, in that very Sag way, share your wisdom and knowledge, but share your wisdom and knowledge that highlights perhaps something that's really deep inside of you, or there's a personal hurt, for example. But this full moon does put Mars, the energy of the full moon, in your 7th. Mars is going to be in your 7th sign of relationships until 2023. So relationships are a big focus right now, especially as you get up to the Mars station retrograde of October 31st. There's something about romance, joy, creativity, relationships, that sounds nice, but also maybe even some deeper pain points. I will say that Mercury, your relationship planet, but also your planet of your career, turned direct just yesterday, and it turned direct in Virgo. So there's a lot of focus on your professional life, your worldly life, but also your duties and responsibilities, and having to sort of do a lot of juggling right now, Sagittarius. Capricorn. So first, let's focus on Pluto, because Pluto turns Pluto turns direct in your sign of you. It's about the self. It's about your life. It's about some of the bigger structural points of your life. And go back to 2008, Capricorn, and who were you? What was the life that you were living in? Who were the people in your life? And sort of what was the structure of your life back in 2008 versus the structure of your life right now? For many Capricorns, it's been a really intense 14 years, I'm sorry to say, but sort of the evolutionary process of this time is to really come into a very different chapter of your life. This is the only time in your life that Pluto will be in Capricorn, from 2008 all the way to 2023, 2024. And so this is the, you'd have to live another 248 years. I'm so sorry, Capricorn, that's not going to happen, to experience this astrology again. So it's like getting your bang for your buck, so to speak. Like, how do you really want to get into the transformation work? And I know you're tired, Capricorn. That said, pay attention to the deeper themes that are coming up, because they thread their way through the last 14 years. Then there's the Aries full moon. That Aries full moon puts your home and family, your household, your living situation, your emotional core, family, past memories, ancestors in the spotlight. Typically around a full moon in this part of our chart, we have to make a choice. We have to make a choice about where we live. We have to make a choice about who is living with us, our household, and maybe even make a decision about our family or even our parents, if that's relevant. It does press on some deeper points, especially with Chiron down in your fourth. Mars, it's in Gemini. Gemini is your sixth sign. So there's sort of this link between your emotional health and your physical health, the past memories and how that shows up in your body, but also maybe even on a very mundane level, doing a lot of projects around the house, getting the house organized, cleaned, sorted, and really focusing on the stuff, the day-to-day stuff, because that's really where Mars is showing up right now. It's really demanding action in your day-to-day life and getting your day-to-day life organized. Aquarius. So fixed sign Aquarius, just your reminder that we're a couple weeks out from a solar eclipse in Scorpio, and Scorpio is your sign of career, your place in the world. So things are starting to ramp up, Aquarius, especially as Saturn, your planet, starts to get ready to turn direct on October 23rd. As it turns direct, it's going to pivot off of Uranus. Saturn is your planet. I will say Uranus is what's called a modern ruler. If you use modern rulers, I don't, but I'm just saying that. And there's been all this concentration of energy in your home environment over the last few years, and how there maybe has been some bumpy things going on in your home environment since 2021. I know a lot of Aquariuses that have moved, made big moves. There's been big changes in the household over the past few years, but Uranus is an evolutionary planet. It's trying to open up and reveal something deep inside of you. So there's a big, things are starting to build, Aquarius. That said, Pluto is wrapping up its time in your 12th sign. So a lot of these deeper excavation and excising has been happening in a place in the chart that you can't see. It is outside your physical view. The 12th talks about the world beyond this world. Who are we outside of this physical reality, spirituality, faith, and sort of that division between our ego and our material physical life, but also the spirit and the soul. So it's hard to really see Pluto at work over the last 14 years, because it may be working on a deep unconscious level, or even working on a deep spiritual level. Maybe you are quite spiritual. Maybe you can see how there's been a deep spiritual evolution over the last 14 years. But this is all in preparation of Pluto's first arrival in your sign on March 23rd, 2023. It goes into Aquarius, first time since 1780s and 90s, but that's a future conversation, Aquarius. That said, this full moon, Aries, is your third sign. And your third sign is about voice, communication, and maybe you have a lot to say right now. There's a link, especially with Mars and Gemini. Gemini is your fifth sign. There's a link between the third and the fifth. And sometimes that's where you have some sort of talent or gift or ability for something, and it has to be expressed. Maybe you're a good writer, Aquarius. Maybe you're great at public speaking. Maybe there's other ways for you to use your voice right now. Maybe on a more of a ego level, it's a time for you to get a little bit of opinionated and to share your point of view or share your voice, or maybe it's just to kind of get back into the passion of life and sort of the passion that allows you to navigate your day-to-day life. Certainly, it's been a bumpy past few years, Aquarius. But this full moon also talks about information and maybe important information, and also having to weigh your options. Last but not least, Pisces. So Pisces, Pluto for you has been in your 11th sign since 2008. It's when you start to get into the 11th and especially the 12th, these are parts of the chart that aren't always readily visible because they're so vast. But at least with the 11th, it talks about our social life, our sense of belonging and community, our friends, society, humanity, the collective, social issues and causes. I didn't say that already. There's been this process over the last 14 years of really shifting and transforming your relationship, either with your friends, your social circle, or sort of that larger framework of like, where do I belong? Who are my people? Who are my tribe, for example? Do I belong? And maybe that's hard because sometimes Pluto can show us where we feel that we don't belong, even if we do. It's part of that psychological and emotional and spiritual work that happens. That said, Pluto will start to leave this area of your chart next year. I'm getting ahead of myself. So you're starting to wrap up a story in this part of your life. Then there's the Aries full moon for you. Aries is your second sign of money and income. So this plays off of Libra season. Libra is in your 8th. The 8th is one of the money places in the chart. 8th talks about finance, assets, sort of wealth management, estates, wills, your partner's money, benefits, I didn't say it already. But this is about your money, the money that you make, the money in your bank, the assets that you own, your property, your resources, your access to resources. But it also talks about value and the things that you spend money on and what's really truly of value, and even your value of yourself. With Mars over in Gemini, Gemini is your 4th sign. There's a bit of an emotional current with this full moon, and it's maybe you're on a very mundane level making purchases for your home, purchases for the household. Maybe it's something about assets and family assets. It could even be stuff that's from ancestors, or even these deeper themes about value and what you spend your money on. Is it really truly emotionally of value? Does it support and nourish your life, for example? But this full moon, it's really talking about your material life, your physical life. But then we have the Pluto turning direct in your 11th that talks about your social life and your social circle. Mercury, one of the major planets in your astrology, it did turn direct on October 2nd, yesterday. It turned direct in your relationship sign of Virgo. So really pay attention to what's being revealed and what's coming up in your relationships. So that's your look at the astrology of October 3rd through 9th, 2022. Look, I didn't forget Libra this time. I hope I didn't forget anybody else. No, I didn't forget anybody else. My name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm, again, an astrologer and psychic medium here in the New York City area. And you can follow me online at empoweringastrology.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Spotify. You can book a consultation with me. I know a lot of you who watch, you are my clients, and I even have people who, when they book with me for the first time, it's like, I feel like I know you. I watch you every week. I know, it's crazy. It's crazy that I sit here and I talk and people listen. It's bananas. It's Pluto in my 3rd at work. So have a great week. Sign up for my webinar. All the details are in the show notes, and I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.